Diana McCullum.
And I'm Andrew Rivamy.
And this is episode 17 of Fan vs. Fan for The Flash.
To The Flash. Oh no, it was poison!
Yesterday, hundreds of these parachute bombs were released throughout Central City.
Fun idea, but not an effective delivery system. How many died?
No one, luckily.
You know, when I was free and at my height, a day without casualties was like, well, like the Cubs winning the pennant. It just never happened.
On tonight's episode of The Flash, we see a new Trickster up to some new tricks. We see Joe going to see old Trickster about some old tricks. They team up. A lot of trickery going on. Heavy Wells storyline tonight. Is he good? Is he bad? Is he from the future? Who is he? But he's in trouble. We know that much. And now, Eddie knows. Alright, so let's talk pros about tonight's episode. Diana, what did you love?
I liked the episode a lot, but I really loved everything in the flashbacks.
Okay.
I liked everything we learned, and oh my god, the effects!
Visual effects were amazing this episode.
This was movie-level effects. That fight, like, twice. Because the fight scene in the opening, but then the Wells stealing Wells' face, or whatever that was. Both of those things looked incredible!
Absolutely beautiful. You're right. Like, film quality stuff. The CGI was just off the charts. Phenomenal. I didn't think they would have the budget to do that, let alone two sequences of it in the same episode.
The same episode. Like, they went all out. They saved nothing. And also, just the reveals we got. Like, we have so much information about Reverse Flash now. I have very few questions left. I still have questions. Like, why was he even there?
Yeah.
But all the Harrison Wells identity questions have basically been answered.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really fast-paced episode. They dropped a lot of information on us really quickly, but not overwhelmingly so. That's a big pro for me on this episode, was that the pacing was spot on. It started off at a very rapid pace. It really brought us in, and at no point did the episode really slow down or break for not for too long, like just enough to catch your breath, and then it kept firing on all cylinders, but didn't drop a season worth of spoilers in one episode. It really was the right amount of everything.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, you both really liked the opening and all the effects. What else did you like?
Loved Mark Hamill.
Oh.
Loved Mark Hamill. You're a fool if you didn't love Mark Hamill in this episode. His performance was phenomenal. And I mean, for those of us who are big fans of Mark Hamill and big fans of comic books, he's iconic as the Joker. And what I loved about his portrayal of Trickster in this episode, he didn't quite go as far as his portrayal of the Joker. If you listen to the tonality of his voice, it's very close. I feel like, especially in the laugh, he did 8/10 of his Joker laugh.
Well, he had to be super aware.
Yeah, he was clearly hyper aware of it, which is, I think, is part of what makes it a great performance. He was like, okay, I'm a villain, I'm murdering people, maniacal laugh. How do I do that and not be the Joker? It's not quite the same intensity as what the Joker brings, and he scaled it down just the right amount to make it still the same level of villainy, but unique, but also recognizable. I thought he played this flawlessly throughout the whole episode.
I will say for about the first half of the episode, I don't think either Trickster got great stuff to work with.
Okay.
Once Hamill got out of prison, his lines seemed to get better. He had like a throwaway line about, they let me have Breaking Bad so I'd stop killing the guards.
That was phenomenal.
Amazing.
The I am your father piece. The I am your father piece was just the right amount of cheese and head nodding to the audience. I am your father made me giddy with joy. One thing that I did feel like was a real missed opportunity, though, was an episode with a lot of conversation about the Speed Force was a real missed opportunity for a use the Force Barry joke.
Use the Speed Force, Barry.
You have Mark Hamill in an episode making a Star Wars insider joke, and it wasn't the Force, a sentence that you had said a dozen times in this episode.
He did tell a character named Axel Walker, I am your father.
It is a win. It is a win. Don't get me wrong. All pro section.
All pros. There won't be a con section this evening.
So for cons of tonight's episode, it's not just of tonight's episode, but it is the show as a whole. And it's a pretty big one, so we're both agreeing on this one, and we want to lay it down for you. So our con for this episode and the show so far is...
We're going to have a bit of an intervention about the lady problem on The Flash. And I mean the problem with the female characters.
Yes.
First off, that most of them are dead.
Yeah.
As the show opens, we have Tess Morgan dead, Barry's mom dead, Iris's mom is dead, and we never even have seen a photo of her.
Yeah.
And they're all just motivational deaths of female characters. And then within the show, we only have 2 female characters. Caitlin, who is a very well-written character and pretty fleshed out, only gets lines, maybe 8 out of 10 episodes.
Caitlin is the exception to the rule. Caitlin is a good female character on the show, but since the introduction of Firestorm, it is also just another motivation for a male character.
It's structurally set up that the women don't get to participate. Like, there were so many dead women, as I said.
Yeah. And Iris is the biggest example of this.
Iris is the biggest example, and this episode is the worst example of it I can imagine. They are refusing to tell Iris that Barry is the Flash. They have told villains.
The villains know.
They've told Eddie, her boyfriend, who Barry doesn't know that well. Not that he's a stranger, but they're not, like, close friends. Like, all doing this to protect Iris. And that is insulting. She's a smart, intelligent woman who, if you tell her there's a supervillain who might kill you if you keep investigating this, she'll be like, okay, well, keep me in the loop.
She is the only one who actually really needs to know. You don't need to tell a police officer to do a little bit of extra policing. Tell the woman who might be in danger.
Yeah, there's a real problem with how the female characters in the show are written. And even in side characters, like just little ones, like one of the only female villains we've gotten was Plastique, and she died. Another woman who died. In the episode, we had Peekaboo, the girl who teleported. And that was an episode where I think the villain got the least amount to do because there was like 8 storylines that episode.
It's terrible. It's a sincere problem. And it's not just a problem in terms of the ideal of equality on television, which it is a problem in its representation of women in media and the superhero culture and in this television show. It's also a problem in plot. It is distracting. It is taking away from the show. It is upsetting and completely throwing everything off the rails within what is supposed to be happening in the show structure.
And I will point out on maybe like a positive, optimistic note, these things can improve. Because I remember season 1 of Arrow.
Yes.
I really didn't like Thea that much. I still don't like Laurel. But Thea is now one of my favorite characters. They introduced Felicity later, who is just incredible. Then they added the second Black Canary. Like, Arrow has shown that you can take a show that doesn't have great female characters and really, really improve. So I hope Flash can kind of learn from Arrow's missteps and buildings.
It's just such a sincere problem that needs to be fixed. I'm optimistic that they can do it. Will they? I hope. I don't know. Time will tell. We just gotta hope for the best.
Fingers crossed.
All right, we're coming up on Easter, so let's drop some Easter eggs.
Oh, all right. The really big one, this one, the obvious one, is Mark Hamill. So Mark Hamill in the 90s was on the 90s Flash show, also playing the Trickster. And for a nice threefer, he also did the voice of the Trickster on Justice League, the animated show.
Yeah,
and
he
it was
did.
really funny. Did a really good job. But even more so than that, whenever they showed flashback images of the Trickster, like when he originally got caught as a terrorist, those were images from the 90s show when Mark Hamill played him.
Yeah, with the original 90s ridiculous costume. It was fantastic.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Love it.
Pretty great. And yeah, he was caught by the John Wesley Shipp version of The Flash, which is Barry's dad. So many connections.
Yeah.
And an even bigger connection on top of that. The mayor in this episode, Mayor Tony Bellows, in the 90s show, that same actor played Officer Tony Bellows. He was a cop who worked a lot of the Trickster cases. And yet didn't recognize the Trickster.
Yeah, I mean, he was real busy working his way up the ranks over the years, you know. He's almost mayor now. Well, he is mayor. He's getting reelected.
He's really lost those detective skills in those years.
He's a busy man.
Busy man. Can't recognize his greatest villains.
Yeah.
And then, there was another Easter egg. Mark Hamill says to the first Trickster, he's like, "Luke, I am your father." And I don't know if anyone got that reference. Think anyone picked up?
It was real subtle. It's
pretty Axel Walker.
Subtle.
I am your father.
Subtle.
No one got it.
No one got it.
One more Easter egg, a really cool thing they did, was the very last thing we see is Reverse Flash stealing Harrison Wells' face, and it's amazing and gross.
Yeah.
But Reverse Flash in the comic books, actually, not in that crazy way. He does take people's identities a lot. He pretends to be Barry all the time, and tried to marry Iris like 3 times.
Oh.
Yeah, he's big on stealing Iris and just like taking Barry's life. So I think this was kind of a callback to just how Reverse Flash likes to just take people's identities and go with them. So yeah, that's what that whole face stealing thing was about. Way grosser on the show.
Yeah, it was pretty gross.
See what we mean?
Just want to give a quick thanks to Chuck May for all the comments on YouTube. We really appreciate it. Tuning in every week with you and your 3 kids. We appreciate your viewership and hope to see more comments from you soon.
Yeah, I almost swore, and then I thought about your kids. So, thanks.
Yeah.
This has been episode 17 of Fan vs. Fan for the Flash. I'm Diana McCullough.
I'm Andrew Ivemy.
If you want to follow along with us next week, you can follow us on Twitter somewhere around here.
And be sure to subscribe to the channel on Dork Shelf right here.
And maybe we'll just have a nice drink while you follow and subscribe. We'll have a... we took the poison out of these, right?